Hello, welcome. My name is Daniel Jackson, and I'm a mathematics professor and math teacher educator at the University of Maine, Farmington. This presentation is titled Digital Course Assistance for Mathematics and Math Education, and we'll talk a little bit about creating custom GPTs for the mathematics classroom. My contact information is down below there, my email address, as well as my website. Feel free to reach out if you have questions or want to chat. In this presentation, we will do a few things. We'll start off talking a little bit about why to create custom GPTs for math teaching. We'll talk in general about how custom GPTs can be built. And we'll look at a few examples of custom GPTs that I've built for my own courses. And I'll give you a little bit of some of the best practices that I've discovered in my own work building these GPTs. And then I'll talk a little bit about where I'd like to take this and some things that I'd also like to do with them in my classes. So, why custom GPTs for math education? Well, first of all, math is a very challenging subject for many students, and just like having a calculator as a tool, or online graphing calculators like Desmos, for example, I believe strongly that AI can be a powerful tool in learning mathematics and doing mathematics. In particular, custom GPTs, you can impart it with custom knowledge bases, for example, the textbook information or the syllabus information, and so it gives quick access to that information and can quickly sort through a mass amount of data. Also, mathematics is both a conceptual and a procedural practice, and AI can accommodate both of those concepts. For example, it can tell us about and enlighten us on mathematics ideas, but it can also show us how to do procedures step by step, or even, for example, running a Python code to do some calculations. And because there's so much built into the OpenAI ChatGPT, which these custom GPTs are based on, it does have quite a bit of knowledge on instructional practices and assessment strategies, so it's easy to diversify learning experiences based on that trained knowledge. And so in that vein, it's makes creating activities, creating assessments, answering questions go quite a bit quicker. And so, for example, if we have a worksheet that we need to quickly revise, we can upload that worksheet, tell the AI how we'd like to revise it, and then it does it quite quickly. And in that same kind of train of thought, teachers are very busy. We have lots of preparation to do, lots of grading to do, and so anything that can support our work in that regard, I find useful and exciting. So how are custom GPTs built? Well, as I mentioned, I personally am using ChatGPT Plus to create these GPTs. And as this GIF graphic shows, kind of the basics, we go to Explore GPTs, go up to Create, and then it gives us a template for creating a new GPT. And so the basics of creating a GPT are giving it a name, giving it a description, giving it a set of instructions, and we'll get more into some of how I'm doing that. Giving it some conversation starters, that's optional, and providing it with a custom knowledge base, also optional, but when you're tailoring it for a course, there's usually a lot of materials that you can load into these GPTs to make it more useful. So how does prompt engineering tie into custom GPTs? Well, when we create a name, create a description, these are parts of how the GPT will act. So giving it a clear descriptive name and description of what the GPT function is helps it perform. The GPT instructions are a little bit more important in that regard. And so that essentially is the pre-prompt that is the GPT, the AI runs before it interacts with the user. And so having those instructions be clear, well formatted, for example, using delimiters, having a good logical flow, these are all important aspects into having a well-working custom GPT. The knowledge base, you can upload custom information, and so how we name files and what's in those files, the content, including the formatting, is important. That all goes into how we're engineering these AI tools. So some custom course assistants that I can show off in this presentation. I'm currently using for my teaching this semester. And so these are for Math 105, which is data science for elementary teachers. These are pre-service undergraduate, and they're interacting a little bit with the AI, but a lot of these I'm using to develop course materials. So I would say for the most part, I'm probably using these course assistants much more than the students at this point. But I provide them for student use as well. I'm also teaching a multivariable calculus course, Math 241, which has the textbook loaded in. And so that gives it a knowledge base of calculus, including all the symbols that we use. And it's able to calculate, it's able to tell us summaries and provide formulas. And I use it to, say, create quiz questions, and it makes my work go quite a bit faster. I'm also teaching a math methods course that's both undergraduate and graduate for pre-service teachers and in-service teachers. And so the course readings and the syllabus and all the assignments are programmed in the knowledge base for that assistant. And it makes things like creating focus questions, getting ideas for activities, quite a bit. Well, it makes it quite nice to do. Speeds up my work, and I'm hoping that it's supporting my students as well. And so the fourth one that I'll mention is trained on a research paper. This one's formative assessments for middle school math. And so I provide that to my math methods students who do things like creating lesson plans, creating unit plans, and that includes needing to come up with assessment strategies. And a lot of times we only know strategies that we've experienced before. However, there's all this research out there that we can draw from and pull ideas, and they're all built into this AI. Maybe we'll take a look at that one. And so this formative assessments GPT is trained on a paper called Formative Assessment Activities, Can They Do the Math? Resource Guide for Middle School Mathematics Teachers. And so, for example, if we wanted to come up with some ideas for formative assessments in algebra class, and hit our conversation starter there, and it gives us some ideas. So maybe some things that you haven't seen in your own math classes, but certainly can give us, as teachers and future teachers, strategies, effective strategies to use. And so I'll take a look at the Math 105 GPT in detail and show you how that's built. Just to pull that one up. And so it has the syllabus built in, it has the textbook for our course built in, as well as the Common Core state standards. And so if we wanted to know what's going on, say week 2 of the course, we could go access the syllabus. It tells us exactly what the activities are. Should be reading Unit 1B. There's the topic, and there's a homework assignment as well. All right, so to give you just an idea and one example of how I use this fairly often, and this certainly is not the cleanest example, but it'll show several prompts on how to use it and how to revise material with it. So this week we were working out of section Unit 2A for Math 105, and typically I like to start it off by summarizing the content. If I'm going to create an activity, for example, I'll summarize the content from the text that I want the activity to cover. And so in this case, Unit 2A pulls up some key points. And well, I knew that we weren't going to go through the whole section, so I just wanted to look at case study 3 and see what was in there. And so it tells us that we're looking at a few of these key ideas: multivariate thinking, non-traditional visuals like word clouds and choropleth maps, as well as critical thinking. And so I always want to start my lessons with learning goals, and so I had to pull learning goals from that portion of the reading. And well, honestly, these learning goals are a little bit wordy for the students I'm working with, so I ask it to write them clearly, concisely, and measurable. Learning goals should always be clear and measurable, and when you can write them concisely, that's even better. And sure enough, we've boiled down to 4 clear, concise, measurable learning goals. Analyze data with multiple variables. Identify and use non-traditional visualizations like word clouds and choropleth maps. Evaluate the effectiveness of different graphical displays. Create appropriate and clear visual visualizations. And so I asked that to put those into a code block so I can copy and paste them. I wanted to have those right at the top of my Google Classroom post for the week. And well, I need an emoji there, so I asked for an emoji. But so I had the learning goals that I wanted for the activity. Create an activity for class with the following learning goals. And so kind of starting a little bit roughly. Here's learning goals, make an activity, no specifications. And so it gives us an idea. Okay, there's our activity. Starts off with learning goals, materials needed. And so I read through the activity, and it wasn't quite what I had in mind. I knew that I wanted us to work with word clouds and choropleth maps, so that's in there, but some of the stuff was a little bit wonky. It might have worked, but I looked at it closely and it wasn't quite what I wanted. So I asked it to revise a bit, and I had found a couple maps that I wanted students to analyze. First one being top Halloween candies in every state. Which, this is a course for future elementary teachers, and so this is something that they could take into their own classrooms. And I gave it the link to the website that I wanted it to reference and have students go and look at. And I also wanted them to look at the average height by state map, which I gave it a link to that. And afterwards, they'll have them make their own choropleth map with fresh fruit data that I had pulled off of a government website. and gave it a link to my Google Sheet. And so provided it with 3 different links to resources. And the activity should also have students create a word cloud using ideas to use 20 to 50 thread titles from a discussion forum of their choosing. And then I gave it a couple different links to word cloud generators for it to use. And so provided it with the resources, provided it with a few of the ideas, and it took my paragraph there and links and created the class activity, data through maps and word clouds. "75 minutes. Took us about that. And there's the learning goals again. Materials needed. There's the links I gave it. There's the word cloud generators I gave it. And then it gives us a nice set of instructions. And one thing to point out is this is sort of the instructor guide, if you will, for it, telling the teacher how to do the lesson. I wanted to make this a student worksheet. And so once I read through it and said, yeah, that's pretty much what I want them to do, and I said, oh, that's nice. And so giving it an affirmation there to say, that's what I want. But then I asked it to change the format, create the student-facing component of the activity. And so then it turns it into a student worksheet, telling the students step by step what to do and where to go, give them the links. And I'll read through that. I liked it. Thought that was pretty good, except for one thing was a little bit weird. It didn't understand the data that I was going to give it. It didn't look at the Google Sheet. Told them to choose one type of fruit to focus on, but there wasn't enough data for one fruit to make a choropleth map. So I had that take that part out and just let students look at the data and figure out some way to create the map. So they ended up with multiple ideas, multiple ways to represent that fresh fruit data, whether it was based on pricing or the number of fruits that the state was top producer in, etc. So it made the revision that I wanted it to. Comes out with the sheet that I was happy with. And once I got it the way I wanted it, give it the affirmation, nice, or thanks, or great, whatever you want to use. And then I ask it to add emoji highlights to the headers to improve UX, give a little bit of color, make it a little bit easier to read. And so here's the emoji highlighted version. And then I was pretty happy with that. I literally copied and pasted that into a Google Sheet. That was their activity. I always like to start class with a quick overview of what we'll do, and so I gave it an affirmation. On to the next thing, outline a slide deck for this class session. And then it made my slides for the intro for the lesson. So that's one example of how we can use these course assistants as an instructor. And so having students use these, they could use it to, say, generate graphs, for example, or generate hypothetical data sets or analyze data sets. There's lots of ways students could use this tool, but right now I'm using it quite a bit more than they are. So to give you some ideas on what I've found that work best for building these to get them to function well, get them to function like we would hope, the giving it a proper name and a proper description helps, kind of gets it started. The name, just real simple, concise, descriptive, what it is, course assistant for whatever class. The description, typically I'll give it a description of what its function is to be a course assistant, but I'll also say what is in its knowledge base to help the user understand how to use it. And the GPT instructions itself, I typically will use a role, goal, knowledge base structure in those instructions. And so we'll take a look specifically at the Math 105 set of instructions here in a minute. But the role, tell it what it is. It's a course assistant for these types of, for specific type of students. Its role is to provide accurate information about the course and the course content. The goal is similar to answer user queries accurately based on its knowledge base. And the knowledge base piece, I do build that into the instructions and specify exactly what files are in its knowledge base in the instructions. And in addition to having the name, description, and instructions for the GPT, you're also able to upload files, which we call knowledge base files. And so some of the recommendations that I make for what kinds of files to upload, I find that high quality PDFs work best. And so the should be like a readable text PDF. You can also upload, doc files and text files. Doc files are automatically delimited, which are nice, but text files typically may not be. And so using like a markdown format or a JSON format, I found helps quite a bit when you have text information. There's a limit to how many files you can upload to these custom GPTs. It's 20 files. And I found that if you have a large, say, PDF file, like 800 pages or something, like a textbook, breaking that into smaller chunks makes for a more accurate retrieval augmented generation. And naming the files descriptively helps a lot too. So rather than saying like file 1, file 2, file 3, say chapter 1 textbook name, chapter 2 textbook name. That way when the AI is going and looking for information, it knows where to find it in its knowledge base. And so the conversation starters, these are optional, but if you have like frequent initial prompts, those are useful to have in there. And if you're going to have other people using this, like students, for example, giving them examples to guide their use, giving them some ideas helps quite a bit. And so here's the Math 105 course assistant sort of front page, what it looks like when you load it up. And there's its name, and there's its description, fairly concise, assistant for the course. It's trained on the syllabus, the schedule, the assignments, and the textbook, as well as the Common Core State Standards. And so that's kind of listing what's in its knowledge base there. And for conversation starters, I like to say, how can you help me? That way it gives students an easy opening line to see maybe some ideas of how to use this and what to use it for. But it can also be quite specific, like I showed you with what are we doing on week 2, gives the activities for the week. So the instructions, the specific instructions for the GPT, and so if you remember back, when you build these GPTs, you've got name, description, instructions. And the instructions are kind of the programming piece. And so this is the way I like to design my custom course GPT instructions. I do a role, goal, knowledge base format. And so in this case, The role, you're an assistant for the class Math 105, Data Statistics and Probability for Elementary Teachers, for undergraduate students aspiring to be elementary school teachers. Your knowledge base is loaded with the primary course resources. You provide accurate information from these resources by accessing your knowledge base files to answer user queries accurately. And so a little bit redundant there, but I really want to make sure that this is pulling from its knowledge base and not its general knowledge. So I want to pull from those files that I upload. The goal, use the information from your knowledge base files to answer questions accurately about the information in the course resources. So when we ask it a question, I want it to pull from those course resources. And what's in its knowledge base? So anytime I upload a new file to it, I'll edit this line in the instructions. So it has the textbook name, Statistics and Data Science for Teachers. It has the Common Core Math Standards document. It has the course syllabus, it has the schedule, and it has the Project 1 assignment. And so when I create our next project assignment, I'll add that to the list. It also has our Google Classroom link, which if we ask, we can have the GPT provide that and give us a quick way to go to our learning management system. So what's in the knowledge base? Well, kind of already read that off, but here's the actual files themselves. And so it has the course schedule, which notice I named it 105 schedule. So we're asking about something in the schedule. It knows to go look at that file. The textbook is actually broken into 3 chapters. The book has 3 chapters. So Statistics and Data Science appears 3 times here. One's Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. There's also the course syllabus. As I mentioned, there's the Common Core Math Standards document, and then the Project 1 assignment. And so I can upload more files as the course progresses. So where do I want to take this? Well, these are definitely reusable. You can copy one of these and make a duplicate, and then change it based on the semester, change it based on the course. And anytime we're working with AI and prompting, it's always good to revise and test and make improvements. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I think primarily I'm using this probably 90% of the time. Maybe students are using it like 10% of the time, and that might be even less than that. And so that's one of the downsides of the OpenAI custom GPTs is you don't have user analytics very well accessible. But yeah, so I'd like to do a little bit more with supporting my students to use it. For example, having in-class assignments where I can actually see them interacting with the AI and provide tips and get a little bit of feedback on how they're experiencing it. And so in that same line of thinking, it's not always going to answer math questions correctly. If we ask it to, say, create a story problem, the story problem may not even make sense. This is always just kind of pattern-based and probability-based, and so it's not perfect. And so, it's a good way to encourage critical thinking and reflection, and it's kind of a nice way to encourage mathematical discourse in the classroom. Is the AI correct? And it's nice when students are kind of out to get the machine, if you will. So anything that can get students excited to think about math and talk about math is a good thing. All right, so that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. My email is listed there, daniel.jackson1@maine.edu. Please reach out if you have questions or comments. Take care.